Welcome, guys. Welcome to a new segment called Ranting with Wrenches.
We got our rants. We got our wrenches. Let's go.
So today we are going to be talking about what is a car guy. We're going to start this segment just getting the view of what is a car guy, different types, and just the background of how we started as a car guy ourselves and getting into cars. So we're going to start with Rich. He's going to answer the main question is, what is the true definition of a car guy in your sense?
So, in my eyes, this is a pretty broad question and answer, because you have different types of car guys. You got guys who are the hands-on. You got guys who are the nerds, like they can tell you engine codes, body styles, crazy specs and VIN number stuff that, like, unless you pull out a dictionary, you're not gonna know. And then you got guys that are brochure guys, the guys who they love cars, they love modding them, but they themselves don't know what they're doing, so they have to have like 9 different friends in order to do it. So I would say my true definition of a car guy is anybody who's willing to put in the time and the effort into a project, or the purchase of a car, finding their dream car, just enjoying the car community overall as a whole. What about you?
I'm pretty much in the same boat with whatever you just said just now. Just like you said, there's different types. I've known guys who think they know cars when they don't. And then when you talk to them about them, they just answer you like, yeah, but they don't know. To me, you gotta have, I put in like 3 categories. You gotta know the minimum parts of upgrading a car, which is like intake, exhaust, headers, anything in that sense, wheels, anything. You should know that basics of that. If you don't know that, then something's wrong with you. All right. The other one is you should be able to drive in the street and be able to pick out a BMW from a Hyundai Sonata. If you can't do that, then once again, it's just common sense a little. You gotta knowledge yourself on this.
You gotta be able to recognize the cars before you see the emblem. All right, the emblem doesn't. It does make the car, but you're not a car guy if you got to get up on it in order to recognize it.
Granted, sometimes you make a mistake. They come out with new body styles each year, which is understandable, but you shouldn't be too far off.
They don't change that much, though.
I know.
They don't change that much.
But, you shouldn't be like, all right, it's a Maserati, but you calling it a Honda. Come on. Let's stop it. That's a little, dramatic, but it happens. So the second part we're going to talk about is, what was it?
I believe it was how you got into cars.
Yeah.
How you got into working on cars and stuff like that.
How did we get into cars? I'm gonna let Rich start on that, and he's gonna tell you some of his background, how he's got started.
So, for anyone who's watching, probably is around my age or a little bit older. When I got into cars, this was, I want to say, like the late 90s. So we didn't have like YouTube where you could go and type in something and see about 4,000 people that have already done it to get, little inklings, or do you need a special tool? Is there something dumb to look out for? Is it hard? Is it a hard to reach spot? We basically just had to either A, go for it, maybe break it and then replace it as you went and learn that way. Know somebody who works on cars and could kind of walk you along, or if you had access to a computer, again, this is like the mid to late 90s, where if you had a computer, you were probably, you had some money. or you had to go to the library, pay like $5 for a half hour, or maybe you sneak into the school computer lab and print out some stuff to try and get some directions of what you were doing. And there weren't no pictures neither, so you had to kind of use a little bit of common sense. So my route was, okay, this looks like it might be it. Possibly break it and then repair it when you realize that you've broken something that you need. That was my route. So I don't know about you.
So my route a little bit easier than what he had to go through with being so old. But but we have, YouTube, we have forums. Just like he said, we have more of a group of people who have done it already. So that's another thing as ours compared to back then, where it's rare to find people who actually built stuff locally to you, compared to now where we got Honda techs right here, Subaru techs, we got people that specialize in BMW. Mm-hmm. So you have all that right in front of you that you could use.
And you got so many more dealerships within a smaller group. If you didn't know how to work on a car, like nowadays, you can work on an Audi.
Yeah.
Because maybe some of the technology has trickled down over the past 5-10 years. Before, if you bought an Audi, if you bought a Benz, if you bought a Beamer, or even like a high-end Honda or a Lexus, you weren't working on it. You did not touch it. If you did, you knew what you were doing already. You were a guy or a person or a lady who worked in the field for 10 plus years already, because even then, I believe the Chilton and the Hainsworth manuals were like $60-$70. And at first, you could get them from the dealer, but, then the name was swapped to, Toyota repair manual, Lexus repair manual, and they were charging like $120. Now
they're like $30.
Now they're at $30. You walk into AutoZone, $30, and even mine's nowadays for my Jetta. A lot of times it's mainly it's a coffee. It's a coaster. Until I really, really need something like torque specs or something like that. Which even still, your first reaction is to pull up your phone and, okay, there it is.
True. Well, the one thing I want to add, when I got into cars I remember the year, 2015. That was when I first got, was a Honda Civic EG Coupe 1994.
You could have just said 5 years ago.
Yeah. But, I never forget that car, because that was my car, you know what I mean? You put all those parts into it, you basically rebuilt it from not only performance, but tie rods, ball joints, sway bars, all that. And you never forget that sense. Just when I first started, just like everybody else, I was a noob. I didn't know I knew what an exhaust was, but I didn't know the real purpose. I didn't know how much horsepower you get from it. I didn't know airflow. I didn't know intake. I didn't know a lot of stuff I didn't know, but that shouldn't, hold you back from getting into the car scene and just doing the research yourself.
I think the biggest thing about cars is that it's legit a community that no matter what your background, religion, color, the region that you live in, you're going to see guys modding their tuner cars, their muscle cars, their pickup trucks, their high-end cars. You know what I mean? Even just regular trash stuff, you're going to see guys just modding it up just to get more power out of it, to make it handle whatever. You know what I mean? When I first started working on cars, it was literally just to get from point A to point B, because before, when you bought a car, you bought some old junk. Like my first 4 cars, I believe, were all from either the 1980s, like the mid to late 80s, or like the early 90s. I've had more cars with the 19 something in front of it than I have 2000. Like the Jetta I have now is probably
the only one.
No, it's like my fourth oldest car.
What year was it? The Taurus.
The Taurus was 99 and a half. Because they changed something in the brake something, and the Taurus was terrible because I got it from a guy who left it sit for like 5 years, but I needed a car and he was like 800. I was like, okay, give me, I'll just fix it up myself. I probably spent 4 months straight going to the junkyard getting stuff, and I swapped the rear brakes from drum over to disc. But I had two Focuses. One was 2000, which was a stick shift, and then the other one was a automatic 2001. Oh, both were ZX3s. The blue one I had to share with my brother, which I didn't like. And then probably, and then the Jetta currently, which is a 2000, and then I had a 2001 Chevy Z24. That was the newest car I had when I got it off the lot. It had like 500 miles. It was the dealer's kind of like test run car, and that was like, I got that car probably, I want to say 3 months before like the original Fast and Furious came out, and it already had the decal on the side, and I put a sound system in it. I put an exhaust in it. I put an interior glow kit in it. I set up the lights for the underglow. I upgraded the hood, and I even bought a turbo kit for it, but I got into an accident before I could put it on. But that was a 2.4 liter, what Chevy used, Ecotech motor. That thing had some giddy up.
That's one of the things.
And it was front wheel drive.
I worry about, you know what I mean? When you're mounting a car, getting into an accident, towing it after you just put all that work in.
I've gotten into a few accidents. I think the one that upset me the most was my yellow 2000 Focus, because I had ordered a cylinder head from, I believe it was either Stita or Montoon. They made an aftermarket cylinder head, direct bolt-on, that increased the horsepower from 150 to 190. Straight bolt-on. So literally, you ordered the cylinder head, got it into your house, took the top end of the car apart. The only aftermarket part that did not come with the cylinder head was a head gasket. That was the only thing that didn't come.
That's cheap, though.
Which I still thought was retarded. It was like $1,200.
Well,
it came with new head bolts, and the head. And then I got a multi-layer steel head gasket and popped that on. I think it was $50. So all in all, I paid, like, after shipping, I want to say like $1,400 for that.
That's a good increase.
A tree fell in my driveway. I wasn't even driving it.
So, the last thing we're going to talk about is just, do you consider yourself a car guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've between working on cars in my driveway, having a car fall on me in my driveway, going to school to get additional learning about cars, to expand on what I started, because I want to get into cars to the point where I could build up my own performance vehicles without having to constantly rely on someone else's knowledge. So it started with my pops and my uncle. Then it went to a local shop where I kept taking my Z24 to get worked on, and I would kind of like look over the guy's shoulder and he would show me stuff to do. And then he actually encouraged me to go to school, learn some stuff real quick for a year, come back. Unfortunately, when that was all said and done, because of the recession in 2008, that kind of, he wound up closing down shop, and that kind of trashed all that. But there were guys that I know that they can throw on a part, they know exactly what you need, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, they can't diagnose for nothing. I can diagnose. Like, that's one thing that from the very beginning, I've had a very good understanding of how the systems work individually and then how they work together. So that's my strength, is diagnosis. But I can also throw on parts and wrench with the best of them. Okay. Well, unless you like NASCAR or something. So, you know, don't call me out on that crap, all right? Okay. What about you? Do you consider yourself a car guy? Car guy.
Yeah. To a certain point. A lot of the stuff I know is based on basically just research. The only thing I lack on is actually doing the work myself, because I've always been busy working 2 jobs. That was years ago. 2 jobs working and all that nonsense, and I just never got into actually, like, you know, putting the work into it more.
The hands-on portion.
Yeah, the hands-on point. But a lot of the stuff I know from owning the cars, like, he tells me, all right, get purring intake because they're the best. I'll be like, all right. So I go home, I research that, I research other intakes, I research the knockoff brands. If they're the same, I come back to him, I'll be like, hey, I found this one. Sometimes he's surprised. People are surprised. They're like, oh, shoot, I didn't know they had this. Cause
I mean, that's part of it.
You know, some people, they're so old school that they're used to just having those name brands, which is only there. Yeah. And then you look up knockoff brands, you're like, oh, man. I didn't know they do the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah. And well, was it? That's just like the video that you made, which we will put in the description on how to find good parts on Amazon, eBay and Amazon. Yeah. Nowadays, the parts that you're looking at, back in the day, you never would have dreamed of getting a turbo or an intake manifold or an exhaust system off of eBay or Amazon. Now, mind you, it's still not going to be to the same exact quality as Perrin, Magnaflow, HKS, Cobb, big tuning companies like that have the money for the R&D. But what they do is they buy those same products, they bring them into their shop. They say, okay, instead of using maybe let's say 1/4-inch aluminum or stainless steel, we're going to use 1/8 inch, or 16th inch, stainless steel or aluminum or whatnot. It may run a little bit hotter, but you get a much louder sound because of it. And you just might have to keep a little bit closer eye on it depending on where you live. So we live up in the Northeast. So obviously with that, we get a lot of road salt during the winter. So we have to make sure whenever there's a nice winter day and it's not, below freezing, you spray stuff down as soon as you can. But yeah, like the turbo that you found me, the KO3, which keep tuned for that video coming out in a few weeks. And I found a few turbos, but you did the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I realized with mine,
found something.
When I was searching for mines, they had the same stock turbo I had, but they upgraded I think it was the bullet inside and some of the bearings or whatever. And I was like, oh, shoot. So I knew they probably had the same thing for you, so you don't have to do no modifications to it. Yeah. Just upgrade it and it holds more power.
Yeah, and you can even tell the difference in the weight and the balance of the turbo from the typical KO3S.
All right. So this is the end of this segment. Let us know what you think. Comment, and just if you have any questions, just let us know.
Yeah, like, subscribe. Leave some recommendations for conversations in the future. Anything you want to hear us go off on. And as always, Wrench Daily.